My name is Kelechi Okon, though everyone calls me Kes. And this story, every twist, every humiliation, every victory, is about my closest friend, Lieutenant Ibrahim Musa, the man who taught me that courage isn't the absence of fear, but the refusal to kneel before it. Before everything happened, I knew him simply as Musa, calm, deliberate, annoyingly disciplined. If I showed up late to anything, he'd give me that look, eyebrows slightly raised, lips pressed in a thin line, the same expression he used when inspecting his spotless boots. We met back in cadet college, two broke boys with dreams bigger than our bank accounts. I studied civil engineering. He joined the Marine Guards. But we stayed close, even after our paths split. I thought I knew the limits of his bravery. I was wrong. Everything changed the year they transferred him to the Federal Capital Infrastructure Corps, FCC, a hybrid agency combining civil engineers, security personnel, and rural development officers. Their job: protect and regulate government construction sites, especially the controversial ones that politicians fought over behind closed doors. One of those sites was Plot 45A in Hillcrest District. To understand what happened, you need to understand the man who caused the storm. Commissioner Godwin Dinladi, the Minister of Urban Development. A politician whose ego was bigger than his ministry's budget. His black SUVs moved through the city like they owned the roads. His voice carried like thunder. His temper shook rooms. He had a reputation everyone whispered about. When Dinladi gives an order, you obey, even if he's not your boss. But Musa was not everyone. The assignment. It was a Tuesday morning when Musa called me. Kes, I've been assigned to Hillcrest. I paused. The disputed one? Yes. Bro, that land is political radioactive waste. Are you sure? I don't have a choice, he said calmly. Orders are orders. I knew that tone. Logical. Neutral. Deadly calm. Musa didn't complain. He didn't disobey. He didn't question superiors. He served. Period. His team's job was simple on paper. Secure the site. Allow only authorized engineers and surveyors. Keep politicians and estate cartels away. But we both knew what that meant. Hillcrest wasn't just land. It was a trophy. Former officials wanted it. Sitting officials wanted it. Investors, the type who only appear during elections, wanted it. Even the military had indirect interests through retired generals who treated land like chess pieces. Still, Musa believed the system would hold. He trusted orders. He trusted hierarchy. He trusted the uniform. I had no such faith. Just be careful, I told him. He laughed softly. When have I not been? The first tension. 2 days into the assignment, things seemed quiet. Too quiet. The engineers worked. The survey team finished marking coordinates. The FCIC members set up light fencing. Everything was routine until the whispers began. Commissioner Dinladi is coming. He wants the site vacated today. The land belongs to his people. Prepare for trouble. When I called Musa that night, he answered in his thick, steady voice. Dinladi visited the area earlier. His aide tried intimidating my men. What did you do? I told them the same thing I'll tell him when he arrives. I am here on directives from headquarters. I don't take instructions from ministry staff. My heart tightened. Musa, he's not the type you talk to like that. I was respectful. That doesn't matter, and you know it. He went quiet. I could practically hear him polishing his boots, his stress habit. Finally he said, if Dinladi comes tomorrow, things might get tense. Kai, I muttered. Let me come. No. His tone sharpened. This is my duty. I'll handle it. The storm arrives. The next day, one I'll remember until I'm old and gray, began like any other Abuja morning. Dusty sunlight, horns blaring, the faint smell of diesel and roasted corn in the air. Around 10:40 a.m., Musa messaged me. He's coming. I left my office immediately. I couldn't enter the secured zone, but I needed to be close. By 11:15 a.m., Hillcrest District erupted with the familiar roar of a political convoy. 4 black SUVs. 1 white Hilux. A cluster of escorts. Commissioner Dinladi stepped out like a man used to gravity bending around him. Tall. Dark. Broad shoulders. An expensive navy blue kaftan that somehow made him look even more intimidating. Behind the cordon, I spotted Musa. Straight posture. Helmet on. Vest strapped. Hands behind his back. Calm. Always calm. I hid behind a parked construction truck, close enough to hear everything. Dinladi marched straight toward him. You, he barked, pointing as though calling a dog. Who is in charge here? Musa saluted. Lieutenant Musa Ibrahim, sir. FCC forward security. Good. Then you will immediately get your men out of this land. Silence. Musa didn't flinch. Didn't blink. Sir, with respect, I am executing standing orders from FCIC Central Command. No. Dinladi stepped closer, breathing hot anger. Do you know who I am? Yes, sir. And you still dare tell me no? My chest tightened. Here it comes. Dinladi raised his voice, loud enough to echo. You are obstructing government work. Do you want to lose your job? Musa's reply was quiet, measured, almost too calm. Sir, I am not obstructing government work. I am protecting government work. This site is under FCIC jurisdiction until the dispute is resolved. Dinladi's jaw clenched. His eyes narrowed. You must be a fool. This time, Musa's voice changed just slightly. I am not a fool, sir. I am a soldier, and I am following my orders. Dead silence. Even the air held its breath. Dinladi's aides exchanged nervous glances. Some of his escorts shifted uncomfortably. Everyone knew Dinladi's temper. Everyone knew Musa had just crossed a line, without raising his voice, without moving a muscle. I wanted to scream, to drag Musa away, to tell him this wasn't worth it. But I knew something else about my friend. His courage wasn't loud. It was frighteningly quiet. And that quiet courage was about to start a war. The breaking point. Dinladi exploded. You dare challenge me in front of my staff. Move your men, or I will arrest you right here. You do not have the authority to arrest me, sir, Musa replied. It was the truth, and the worst possible thing he could have said. Dinladi shoved him, hard. Musa didn't move, didn't react, didn't raise a hand. His team tensed, stepping forward slightly. He raised a hand to stop them. At that moment, I saw something new in Dinladi's face, not rage. Humiliation. And humiliation is a dangerous fuel. He hissed, You'll regret this. Then he stormed off, barking into his phone. The fallout begins. By evening, the news had broken on social media. A statement, clearly from Dinladi's office, accused Musa of obstructing government operations, insulting a federal official, attempting to incite officers. Within hours, blogs picked it up. Then news channels. Then Twitter. People were already taking sides. And Musa? He sat in his small FCIC residence, polishing his boots in silence. That's when he finally spoke to me. Kes, he said softly, a storm is coming. I nodded. And he lifted his head, looked me in the eyes, a calm fire burning in his. Then we stand in the rain. I didn't see Musa for almost a week after the courtyard confrontation. Ever since he stood his ground against Commissioner Dalandi in front of the administrative staff, the base felt different, tense, as if the air itself was waiting for the next blow. I would occasionally spot him moving across the parade ground during morning drills, his tall frame rigid, his eyes distant, but there was no chance to speak. Dalandi's shadow loomed everywhere, and anyone associated with Musa seemed to move with caution. It wasn't until a dull Wednesday evening, the kind that made the sky look like flat steel, that I found him. He was sitting at the far corner of the officers' mess, poking at a plate of cold rice, shoulders stiff, jaw tight. I slid into the seat opposite him. Food insulting you today? I asked, trying for lightness. Musa didn't laugh. That was my first warning. He looked up slowly, eyes hard. Kalechi, something's coming. From Dalandi. Of course. Dalandi's pride had been wounded in the construction site. For a man like him, humiliation wasn't something to swallow quietly. It demanded retaliation, and Musa had made it public that he would not bend. What did he do? I asked carefully. Musa pushed the plate aside. Captain Ola called me into his office yesterday. Told me I was being disrespectful to authority. Then he handed me a reassignment order. My stomach clenched. Reassignments were normal, but sudden transfers, especially after a clash, were often political. Where? Sector 7. Coastal patrols. His voice was flat, like he was announcing a prison sentence. Sector 7 was notorious. Treacherous waters, sporadic smuggling, rogue private security. Senior officers avoided it whenever possible. Captain Ola seemed to be a sympathizer of Dalandi, wasn't just punishing Musa. He was testing him, trying to isolate him in hostile conditions. What did you say to him? Nothing. That's exactly what he wanted, to provoke me, to see me snap. He rubbed the bridge of his nose. But that's not what worries me. What does? He hesitated. He said something strange. Not a threat exactly, more like a warning. What did he say? Musa's eyes met mine. Know when to stop carrying other people's burdens, Musa. Some weights were never meant for your shoulders. I frowned. What does that even mean? I don't know, he murmured. But the way he said it, like he knew something I didn't. I studied him. Exhaustion. Tension. Frustration carefully contained. Musa was brave to the point of recklessness. And Dalandi, men who built empires on ego and fear, always saw principled men as threats. Listen, I said. Lay low for a while. Don't challenge him. Fulfill the assignment. I could, Musa replied. But that would only delay what he already set in motion. I couldn't argue with that. Are you ready for Sector 7? I asked. He exhaled slowly. I'll manage. You'll more than manage, I said firmly. You're the sharpest officer here. Don't let Dalandi twist you. He didn't smile, but his eyes softened just slightly. Thanks, Kelechi. As he walked away, a cold knot formed in my stomach, like stepping into a story whose ending we didn't yet know. The assignment nobody wanted. 2 days later, Musa left for Sector 7. The base was unusually quiet that morning. Even the seagulls seemed absent from the shoreline. I walked him to the dock, trying to lighten the mood. Remember, if smugglers confront you, don't try diplomacy. You're terrible at it. Musa chuckled despite himself. You're thinking of yourself. But when the patrol boat engines roared to life, humor drained from both of us. He adjusted his vest, slung his binoculars, and took his position near the controls. And just before the vessel pushed off, he leaned slightly over the railing. Kelechi, if anything happens, keep an eye on Dalandi and Captain Ola, I feel. The siren cut him off. What? I yelled. Never mind. I'll explain when I return, he said. He wouldn't. Not in the way either of us expected. Rumors, whispers, and shifting tides. Musa had been gone barely 2 days when whispers started circulating. Sector 7 was unusually volatile. A political official was scheduled for inspection there. Captain Ola had strategically assigned certain officers to that area. I tried to dismiss it as gossip, but the pattern was too consistent. And one detail haunted me. Captain Ola had known Sector 7 was risky before sending Musa. That wasn't carelessness. It was calculated. 3 days into the mission, a coded message arrived from Musa. Kelechi. Alert. Trust no one. Unusual movements. Watch Captain Ola closely. My heart froze. What had he uncovered? Who was he up against? And why warn me, of all people, not to trust the institution we served? I typed back immediately. What is happening? Are you safe? No reply for hours. Then, at exactly 2:14 a.m., we'll explain when I return. Don't ask questions yet. I realized then, this wasn't just political posturing. Musa had stumbled into something tied to Dalandi's wounded ego, his power, and dangerous alliances. Something that others wanted buried. The unsettling return. Musa returned 5 days later. Not quietly, and not alone. Rumors preceded him. His patrol had escorted a vessel tied to a politically connected administrator, someone known to answer directly to Dalandi. When the boat docked, he stepped onto the pier, face stone cold. Not a glance at gossiping sailors, not a glance at officers pretending not to watch. When his eyes finally met mine, I saw it, fear. Musa had never been afraid. And yet here it was, subtle but undeniable. Kelechi, he said quietly, we need to talk. He pulled me into a secluded corridor behind the storage bay. I saw something in Sector 7. Something that could ruin careers, maybe lives. What did you see? He shook his head. It's not safe to say here. But someone is setting me up, using Captain Ola to do it. The pieces clicked, the sudden reassignment, the veiled warnings, the political visitor, the coded messages. Muse, what are you tangled in? He stared past me, jaw clenched. Something I never asked for. The wind rattled the metal roof above us, and for the first time since I'd known him, Musa looked genuinely shaken. Before I could say more, heavy footsteps approached, deliberate, slow. Captain Ola appeared, smirk faint, voice smooth. Musa. I trust Sector 7 was enlightening. Musa did not respond. Ola's eyes flicked to me, then back. Report to my office in 20 minutes. You and I have unfinished business. He walked away. The silence left behind was suffocating. Musa exhaled shakily. Kelechi, everything is about to change. And I knew in that moment that the days ahead, the betrayals, traps, political maneuvers, humiliation, and revenge, would shake the base and almost destroy us both. The morning after Musa returned from Sector 7, the base felt different. Even the usual chatter of officers seemed muted. Those who had once been confident moved with a cautious, almost nervous energy. Dalandi, the commissioner whose ego filled the walls of his office, walked with the same arrogance as ever, but there was a subtle change. He was measuring Musa, calculating, testing boundaries he had thought unbreakable. I found Musa in the operations room, sitting alone, staring at the digital map of Sector 7. His posture was tense, but his eyes were sharp, scanning the patrol routes, the docking schedules, the movement of personnel. "Coffee," I offered, holding the steaming cup toward him. He didn't look up. "Thanks, Kelechi," he said, voice low. I slid into the chair beside him. "You need to tell me what's happening. That message, you can't leave me in the dark." Musa rubbed his temples and exhaled. "It's Captain Ola and Dalandi. Sector 7 wasn't just a patrol. It was a test, a trap disguised as routine. They wanted to see if I'd break under pressure." "Break?" I echoed, uneasy. "What kind of trap?" "Unauthorized shipments," Musa said, voice tense. "Supplies that weren't exactly supplies. Private contractors moving sensitive equipment under the radar. And the people handling it? They answered to him. To Dalandi." I froze. "The commissioner is using the base for illegal operations?" "Not illegal enough to be obvious," Musa replied grimly. "But dangerous. And anyone who interferes becomes expendable." I swallowed hard. "Why target you specifically?" Musa's jaw tightened. "Because I refused to bow at the construction site. I refused to carry burdens that weren't mine. And egos like his, they cannot tolerate that." The first confrontation. Captain Ola didn't waste time. By midday, a formal summons arrived. Musa was to report to the commanding officer's office immediately. I followed him at a distance. Captain Ola stood by the office window, gazing out at the harbor as if it belonged to him alone. He turned, smirk in place, and said, "Musa, Sector 7 appears to have been enlightening. I trust you understand the responsibilities that come with your position." Musa's reply was calm, measured. "I do, and I have completed my tasks." Captain Ola circled slowly, like a predator observing its prey. "Most officers would be grateful for guidance, Musa. But you seem to have a problem with that." "I follow orders, sir." "I also follow my conscience," Musa said evenly. Ola's smirk sharpened. "Conscience can be dangerous when it conflicts with duty. And duty can be dangerous when it conflicts with truth." Musa shot back. A tense silence filled the office. Ola's eyes searched Musa for weakness. He found none. Finally, Captain Ola leaned back, voice smooth but cold. "Some weights were never meant for your shoulders. I warned you in Sector 7, didn't I?" Musa's jaw tightened. "I remember. But warnings don't scare me, sir. Only consequences do." Ola's smirk faltered slightly. "Be careful, Musa. You're talented, but easily expendable." Musa nodded, standing. "I'll keep that in mind." As we left the office, I realized this was no longer about rank or procedure. It was a battle of wills. A silent war of ego, power, and principle, but deadly all the same. The friendship tested. Later that evening, Musa and I walked along the eastern dock, where the waves struck rusted pylons with relentless force. "You're not going to strike back?" I asked quietly. "Not yet," Musa said. "I need evidence first. If I act blindly, Dalandi wins before the first move lands. But he's dangerous. He's already tried to corner you using his proxy," I said, worry gnawing at me. "I know," Musa replied. "That's why I need allies who are careful, who think ahead. And you, Kelechi, you're part of this now. You need to understand. Some people will wish me to fail just to protect their own positions." I glanced at him, unease settling in my chest. "And if you fail?" Musa's eyes were steel. "Then I won't survive this base. But I won't go down quietly. That I promise." I believed him. I always had. Moves and countermoves. The next few days became a dangerous game of chess. Musa worked silently, documenting everything, watching every officer, noting every suspicious interaction. Captain Ola, meanwhile, seemed aware of the shift. He began micromanaging patrols, questioning reports, inserting his loyalists into strategic positions. But Musa anticipated each move. He logged conversations, verified movements, quietly turned the officers Ola relied on against him without overtly challenging anyone. Every day, the tension increased. Captain Ola moved his pieces. Musa countered with foresight. Ola whispered doubts into senior officers' ears. Musa subtly redirected those doubts elsewhere. The office became a field of quiet maneuvering where the stakes were careers and reputations, not just pride. It was exhausting, dangerous. But Musa thrived under pressure, always one step ahead, calculating, precise, untouchable. The warning signs. Late one night, Musa sent a message. Kelechi, Captain Ola's watching differently now. Something changes tomorrow. Be ready. I didn't know what to expect, but I trusted his instincts. The next day, Ola called Musa again. This time, the entire office seemed poised for spectacle. Officers whispered, some feigned casual curiosity, others clearly anxious. But Musa entered calmly. Ola's tone was deceptively polite. Lieutenant Musa, Sector 7 seems to have revealed complications. I trust you understand the implications. Musa's reply was measured. I do, sir. And I understand my responsibilities. Ola's eyes narrowed. Responsibilities sometimes require sacrifices. Musa's lips pressed thin. And sometimes responsibilities require standing firm. The subtle shift was unmistakable. The confrontation that would define the coming days, the humiliation, the political maneuvering, and the eventual revenge was inevitable. After the confrontation in Ola's office, the base felt like a pressure cooker. Musa didn't speak much, but the intensity in his eyes said it all. He was planning, calculating, preparing. And as his friend and confidant, I watched closely, knowing every step he took was a move in a deadly game. Dalandi didn't forget the public humiliation in the courtyard. Every day, subtle signals reminded us that the commissioner's pride had been wounded. His proxy, Ola, reassigned officers close to Musa to keep tabs on him, that he leaked minor discrepancies to senior officials, hinting that Musa was careless, that he sent cryptic messages suggesting Musa's future depended on compliance, not principle. While his loyalists were being used, he flaunted the authority his ego believed he deserved, using every interaction to assert dominance. Musa, however, remained calm, too calm. There was a method to his silence, a precision to his patience. I began to understand that this was not just a standoff. This was a chess match where every piece mattered, and Musa was determined to turn Dalandi's aggression into a weakness. The strategy takes shape. I spent nights helping Musa analyze documents, logs, and reports he had quietly gathered from Sector 7 and the base. Patterns emerged. Dalandi's loyalists were predictable in their movements. Certain operations he controlled were risky, exposing potential illegal activity. There were vulnerabilities in his network that, if exposed at the right time, could topple him. Musa's plan wasn't reckless revenge. It was precise, surgical, and patient. Kelechi, he said one night, eyes gleaming in the dim light of the office. I'm going to make him undo everything he's built, without firing a single shot. I didn't fully understand at first, but I trusted him. Musa never acted without purpose. The sacrifice. Patience came at a cost. Musa's sleep was scarce. Meals were skipped. Hours were spent in the records room or the docks, observing officers who had once been indifferent, noting subtle interactions, building a dossier of Ola and Dalandi's vulnerabilities. Sometimes I worried about his health. You're killing yourself over this, I told him. He looked at me, voice steady but firm. This isn't about me, Kelechi. It's about principle. If I step aside now, Dalandi, and men like him win. If I sacrifice some comfort now, I protect every officer who values integrity over fear. I nodded, knowing he was right, but fearing the toll it was taking. The break in the game. Weeks of careful observation finally yielded a moment. Captain Ola, in his arrogance, made a misstep during a high-profile inspection of Sector 9 operations. He underestimated Musa's ability to read patterns, and in that moment, Musa captured the proof. Officers falsifying reports under Ola's orders. Unauthorized shipments moved under the guise of routine operations. Recorded conversations implicating Ola and his boss Dalandi in orchestrating manipulations and threats. I remember the night Musa handed me the files, eyes alight with determination. This is it, Kelechi. Every threat he ever made, every attempt to corner me, it's all here. Now it's a matter of timing. The obsession takes hold. Dalandi, oblivious to the dossier, continued his campaign of intimidation. Every day, Musa endured snide comments, veiled threats, and political maneuvering designed to isolate him. But now, Musa wasn't just reacting. He was orchestrating. He fed selective information to the right people, subtly discrediting Dalandi's loyalists, planting seeds of doubt in senior officials' minds. It was exhausting. Every day was a balancing act. One wrong move could ruin him, or worse, get him transferred, or worse still, destroyed politically. Yet he remained focused. calm, ruthlessly patient. His obsession was clear. Dalandi and his loyalists had to face consequences, but the victory had to be complete, undeniable, and irreversible. Late one night, I received another coded message. Kelechi, tomorrow, everything changes. Be ready. Witness the storm. Musa never explained more. I didn't need him to. By now, I had learned that Musa's strategy relied on patience, precision, and timing. Ola's ego, his arrogance, would be the lever. And I realized that the coming confrontation wouldn't just expose Dalandi and Captain Ola. It would redefine the balance of power at the base. Because men like Dalandi only respect two things: strength and consequence. Musa had both, and he had waited patiently for the perfect moment to deliver. The stage was set. The pieces were in place. And all that remained was for Ola to make the final misstep that would trigger the collapse. Musa's quiet obsession, his sacrifices, his meticulous preparation, it all pointed toward a reckoning that no one at the base would forget. And I, Kelechi Okon, knew that when it finally came, we would witness not just revenge, but the triumph of principle over arrogance. The morning began like any other, but beneath the routine of the base, something had shifted. Musa moved through the halls with measured confidence, the calm of a man who had prepared for months now radiating from every step. Captain Ola, oblivious, or perhaps overconfident, continued to assert his dominance, unaware that the tide was about to turn against him. I stayed close, silent, observing. After weeks of strategy, preparation, and sacrifice, the moment had arrived. The strategic strike. It started quietly. Musa arranged a briefing with senior officials, ostensibly about Sector 7 operations. Ola expected routine reports. Instead, Musa presented facts, logs, and records he had painstakingly collected. Unauthorized shipments traced to contractors loyal to Dalandi and Ola. Evidence of falsified patrol reports and mismanaged operations. Recorded communications that clearly implicated Dalandi and Ola in political manipulation and threats toward officers. The room went silent. Every officer, every staff member, was forced to witness what Captain Ola had done, and what Musa had uncovered. Captain Ola's face, usually a mask of composure and arrogance, betrayed a flicker of panic. He tried to intervene, to spin the narrative, but Musa anticipated him. Every argument Ola could make had already been countered with documentation, witnesses, and timing so precise that escape was impossible. The reckoning. Captain Ola, Musa said, voice steady and controlled. The operations you've authorized are no longer just a question of oversight. They are a matter of legality, accountability, and principle. Every officer affected by your actions deserves transparency, and every attempt at intimidation is now documented. Ola's smirk faltered. He opened his mouth, closed it, tried another angle, but it was futile. Musa had engineered the perfect convergence of truth and timing. I watched as the room's atmosphere shifted from tension to quiet astonishment. Officers whispered, some exchanging knowing glances, others trying to hide relief that the rot at the top was finally exposed. Ola, realizing the tide had turned, made one final attempt to assert control. Lieutenant Musa, you. Sir, Musa interrupted, unwavering. This is not about me. This is about the integrity of this institution. And the integrity of leadership depends on accountability, not fear. The fall of a tyrant. By midday, the consequences were official. Investigations were launched. Dalandi and his loyalist Captain Ola were temporarily suspended pending a full review. Other loyalists were reassigned. And Musa, he was commended quietly for bravery, integrity, and strategic acumen. The base had shifted. The whispers of intimidation were replaced by cautious respect. Officers who had once feared Ola now looked at Musa as a symbol. Proof that principle, patience, and preparation could overcome even the most egotistical and powerful adversary. The president of the country gave a national broadcast addressing the misdeeds of Dalandi and his men. Later that evening, Musa and I walked along the docks, the sun low and gold over the water. The chaos of the day had passed, leaving a calm that felt earned. You did it, I said quietly. Musa shrugged, modest as always. I just made sure the truth got its chance. But you didn't just defend yourself, you dismantled him completely. That took more than courage. He paused, eyes on the horizon. It took patience, observation, waiting for the right moment, and knowing what was worth fighting for. Sometimes the fight isn't about who hits hardest. It's about who survives and ensures justice is seen. I nodded. I understood then why Musa had endured the long nights, the sacrifices, the constant pressure. He had played the long game, and he had won. The legacy. Weeks later, the base was calmer, yet different. Officers moved with a renewed sense of purpose. Musa's actions had set a precedent. Arrogance and intimidation had limits, and principle could outmaneuver power. Dalandi and Captain Ola were gone, their reputation fractured. Musa remained, not as a hero craving glory, but as a sentinel of integrity. And I, Kelechi Okon, witnessed it all. The confrontation, the strategy, the revenge perfectly executed, and the enduring proof that courage combined with intellect could dismantle even the most formidable ego. Some victories are silent, some are loud, but this one was both. And in the quiet moments along the docks, watching Musa, I realized that true strength wasn't in striking first, it was in striking right.